So while I was minding my own business, finishing up a Blender assignment for college, I came across a tweet from HexKnight responding to a tweet. Apparently some Twitter user by the name of Chase, or Invective, decided to make a tier list for all of the ranking channels. It was basically a screech fest telling these channels and the ones not mentioned to delete themselves. Sure enough, once people started calling this user out, they decided to delete the tweet and tried to convince people that the tweet was bait. Why am I mentioning this though? Well, it's because it caused me to think for a bit. Yeah, the post was made by someone who had some valid criticisms with ranking channels in general, but he went about it in the stupidest way possible. But it did make me think about my channel as a whole. And since I've been critiquing other people's work, I think it's about time I did the same to myself. This is a retrospective on my channel. Let's first start off at the very beginning of my rankings, which was in February 2022. I had been keeping an eye on Monstercat rankers such as Red Hawk, Juneu, and Hoxie, and I've sort of gotten inspired to do my own ranking videos. And man, these were pretty low effort back then. I mean, I didn't even give my reasonings besides one word. They're about as basic as you can get with rankings. Not to mention a lot of my opinions on the songs, particularly in February, did not age well. The videos themselves are also very low quality. I mean, they're better than my best of 2021 list, which, oh dear, I have certainly come a long way in terms of that. But often I would put the artwork of a song, zoom in, and then put text and transitions, and that's it. It wasn't until May that I finally exported the videos. Except there was one issue. I decided to use VLC to export the videos, and if you've ever tried to do that, they look like absolute garbage. When you compare my exports to, say, Rent Studios at the time, the contrast is jarring to say the least. After a while, I started to realize a lot of the ranking channels were starting to look the same. So I decided to try out something in June, where instead of lazily putting on one-word explanations, I would use my voice for the recordings. Safe to say, my videos in June and July were both praised, and I enjoyed doing these in the summer. But then fall hit. And with college starting, plus a very desperate attempt to get more views and promotion, I tried to work where I post rankings at the very end of the month on top of all the college work I was currently doing. And what you get was stuff like the September ranking, where I was so crammed with work I completely forgot about the ranking itself. So I decided to get a robot voice in there to rank for me instead of doing it myself. What results is a boring, almost lifeless video except at the very end. And then there's Halloween ranking, and honestly, I'm still very proud of that video. Yeah, you could call it cringe, and yes, some parts were, but I still put plenty of hours into making that video. The problem was there were certain callbacks to short films I had made before I was known as a Monstercat ranker, more specifically Void and the Miscellaneous Adventures of Virtual Reality. I'm saying this because you would have never known by watching the video. This left people very confused, and honestly after looking back, I don't blame them. Also, due to how the video was structured, less people ended up making it to the end. About 600 people watched the video, but only 87 ended up reaching the end. And once we got to November, there was nothing. Due to finals coming up, I sent a community tab saying that I would leave my rankings in a community post as I felt like it just wasn't worth going through the stress. Then comes December, where I thought it was a really good idea, with the small numbers I have, to make a Monstercat Best of 2022 party where we literally just listen to the songs. And look, if you have fun during these streams, that's cool, but looking back, man, I really tanked these. Instead of announcing the stream ahead of time like a normal person would, I decided to stupidly remind the people the day of or on the dot. This led to multiple times where nobody showed up, and I ended up having to reschedule because of it. And the quality of the streams was no better. The whole background was stuck on the YouTube streaming page because I didn't know how to import a simple background in. The first part of the stream contains a massive freeze issue that I had to edit back in post, and I was so incompetent with the streaming software that I didn't know the bare minimum in order to set this up properly. Genius! But hey, at least my best of 2022 and worst of 22 did well, so maybe things might go up there, right? Well, not so much. The next release was my January ranking, which was my absolute worst ranking video. It contains very flimsy explanations, way too many dancing clips, and it feels rushed, probably because, well, it was. And then there was the Excision video. Let me take you back to February 1st on Thursday at 11 p.m. I was minding my time and I decided to check out new music that was coming out on Friday. And I found out, hey, that Excision and Wooly house track released called Titans. I was actually looking forward to it since they fixed the bro step drop. And you know what? For the first half of the track, I actually enjoyed it. Yeah, the synths were a bit loud, but it's not bad so far. Maybe this might actually be...
Drop it.
Oh, look, I now get that this originally started as a Lockdown House VIP, but when that first drop sounds nothing like Lockdown, and the fact that the Wooly VIP already exists and actually did a decent job of remixing the original, I'm sorry, this just sounds rushed. That said, when I first heard that drop, I decided it would be a really great idea to make a video on it, post it to YouTube acting really bitter about it, complain about it on Twitter on the day of release, and expect not to get any backlash for it. Brilliant! If there's one thing I regret doing on this channel, it's that video and that tweet. And after Wooly replied back, I knew how to address this properly. Afterwards, I decided to take a week off YouTube after the video. Which leads me to my ranking videos, and where I've been going wrong with them. If you've ever watched my ranking videos, you might notice I could flang into a rage at times. I'm not even a fan of either Hades or Crymok, but I did not expect this song to be this bad. Oh dear Neptune, what is that synth lead? It sounds like the pegboard nerds listened to too much Vanek and 2 Feet and just said, hey, we could do that too, and made this trap tune trying to do something different and failing spectacularly. And since Kiz Keys' performance isn't doing too much here, plus the fact none of the other production is noteworthy, you end up listening to that terrible lead and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Now I want to be clear here, a lot of my anger expressed in these videos, it's an act. I'm not Mr. Enter and I do not ever want to become one anytime soon. But I've realized when I'm inching towards the line of bashing the artist, and that's something I don't want to do. I've made it clear that I'm stopping ranking videos in May and transitioning into film criticism with occasional album reviews called Lakeside Critiques. But if I'm going to end my Monstercat exclusive content, I want to end with a bang. So here are some changes I'm going to be making. Number 1, I will be doing the top 5 best and worst for each month. That way I can have enough time to talk about each track. And since I'll only be covering 10 songs per month, I'm making another change. Number 2, Silk will be added to these videos. I thought about how best to represent this sub-label. My best of Silk was how I did this before, but after some concern, I made the decision to cover Silk songs too. Which leads me to number 3, I'm going to be delaying these releases a few days after each respective month. That way I have more to say and more time to process my thoughts on each song. As for the stuff after May, I was thinking Lakeside Critiques could be a chance for me to review stuff outside of Monstercat. I'm thinking it could be a voting method where you guys could give me album suggestions, and then I review the albums with the highest votes. It's kind of like Insico's reaction box, but in a review format. This might be a monthly thing because the main goal for this channel will be on film criticism. I'm planning on 2 miniseries for this, a rant on and an acclamation of. And yes, this was inspired by MauLer's Unbridled Rage and Unbridled Praise videos respectively, as well as Gaming Magic 13's video essays. However, I feel like I want to alternate these series as much as possible. That way I'm not just making solely negative content. I'm also going to be creating some short films again, so I might not have the most consistent upload schedule. If you have any comments or concerns about content like this, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I know some of my content might be a turnoff for some people who are here for my Monstercat stuff or my EDM stuff, but I hope you can stick around. And as for Titans, well, I'm not done with that track just yet. But until then, thanks for watching. This is Liam from BaysidePark, and I'll see you all soon.